Are we?
I guess so. Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
So I guess welcome back to the closet recording studio or whatever.
Right.
And this is, I guess, episode 2 of what are we calling this? I don't even remember. I don't even know. Are we calling this something yet?
Mirror Poetics.
Mirror Poetics. There we go.
That's what you had named it, which I felt was apropos. That goes back to when we met as writers on the Mirror staff at West Charlotte, which we ended up being co-editors of, which is, I guess, well, not where I guess that's where our friendship and our bond and stuff was formed.
Yeah.
You want to know what? It's funny, Andrew. I had a flashback. Do you remember when we emailed each other freshman year of college? It might have been freshman or sophomore year. You remember that email you sent me?
Vaguely.
You were talking about you were performing. You were talking about a festival that you had been at, and you know how like they did indie artists and stuff, and you asked me how my music was going. You remember that?
Yeah,
right.
I sort of remember that one now.
Right, that's how long we've known each other. Like I had a flashback of that email, and I'm thinking like, man, me and Andrew had like a whole music conversation in that email freshman year of college when you were. I was at Greensboro, and you were.
I was in Nashville. Yeah,
I was in Nashville, Boone County.
Yeah,
shout out County.
For sure, man. Like, and I mean, even going even further back, I mean, we were originally like reviewing albums for the high school newspaper. That's like where we started, like in 10th grade. So it's been going on since we were 15, something like that.
Yeah, 15 going on 16. Like the review. Yeah, I wrote my first reviews for the Mirror when I was 15 because I didn't turn 16 till that October, and you know we were in school in August. Yeah, in August. Yeah.
So it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been. We've been doing this for a while, actually.
Yeah. So I guess y'all get to see the end product of this or whatever. So we'll talk about some songs. I guess we'll talk about like how they're put together. I'm going to have Coop teach me some stuff about some things that. In this case, actually, for this episode, we're going to talk about C.R.E.A.M by Wu-Tang Clan and Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen. Yeah. And I have to. I can start with a confession, I guess. The song C.R.E.A.M, like it is a song that in my teaching career, I'm a teacher. For those of you who don't know, years and years ago, it's a song that I pretended to know a whole lot more about than I did, for credit with people who didn't know better. So I'm looking forward actually to learning more about it, like for real this time.
So let's break down the first part of. Actually, let's break down the group and how important the group is in terms of what they brought to the game. So C.R.E.A.M is Wu-Tang Clan's breakthrough single. That's
what I thought. Okay.
Yes, this is the breakthrough single. It's not the first single. This is the song that propelled them into stardom. So what really started off their career was Protect Your Neck, which is a single with all of the members from the crew who were not incarcerated at the time. I believe You God is not on Protect Your Neck because he's incarcerated, and so is Capadonna. Everybody else from the Clan is there. That's their jump off single. If I'm not mistaken, after that, they went to Method Man, which is Method Man's solo single and breakout performance and what made him the star of the group, which is held up to this day because Method Man just graced the cover of Essence magazine. Bringing it back. Once upon a time, part of the grittiest crew in rap history, though, and was the front man for the grittiest crew in rap history, now doing Essence covers. It's part of the evolution of music. No, it's a beautiful.
No, it's for real though. Yeah.
No, for real. C.R.E.A.M was the song that connected with people who were not connected to their core audience, and it's because of the theme, Mike. So, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm calling you Mike. I'm so used
to doing the. You've been doing the other podcast all day. It's all right.
Right, not right. I just got done doing one podcast talking about hip hop, and now I'm talking about one of my favorite hip hop songs. Sorry, Andrew. So, C.R.E.A.M is an acronym for Cash Rules Everything Around Me.
Right.
And so the connecting dot was that they were talking about money. But intricately speaking, what's beautiful is that the hook is talking about money. Andrew, on the verses, they're talking about how poverty stricken they are and how they don't have money. So the compare and contrast of the hook that brought everybody in this money oriented that people relate to versus the verses themselves, which are more hip hop oriented in the financial struggle from inner city youth and incarcerated youth. And so it's super important. One of the things we need to break down is the creativity of the crew. A lot of people didn't know at the time, and neither did I. C.R.E.A.M is the first song that ever became a big record. No. Second big record that's used as an acronym. They Reminisce Over You by Pete Rock and CL Smooth supersedes C.R.E.A.M by a year, I think.
Okay.
Both of those are arguably two of the 10 best hip hop records ever. C.R.E.A.M is a way bigger hit. A lot of that has to do with the hook. But these guys were into the craft of MCing, into the acronym of it. What a lot of people don't know is that Wu-Tang Clan wasn't just something that they took from the Kung Fu flicks. They took Wu-Tang Clan and made it an acronym too. Wu-Tang Clan stands for We Usually Take Another Nigga's Garments, Wu-Tang. So they're being consistent when you hear C.R.E.A.M too. Like they're making the play on words and the creative and the crafty side of it important and putting it on showcase for a single and for a group name that, creatively speaking, was something that had never been done before in hip hop.
Man.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like we had never seen somebody approach it creatively like that before, because the evolution of the MC really starts about 86, 87. So when we're in 93, they're one of the first guys to get really creative and witty with it. But they kept it very street oriented and very gritty. A lot of people relate to Wu-Tang who are outside of our community, and I think I would classify you as one of those people.
Yeah, for sure.
They came off as street MCs, but they really didn't talk about drugs and violence that much.
Right.
C.R.E.A.M is the epitome of that. So the drawing is easy, because if you're not used to our culture, like as in if you don't live in our culture and see the drugs and the violence and how it dictates the pace of so many things, well, Wu-Tang Clan is such a welcoming thing because they provide you all of that, and it's not as much drugs and violence involved. C.R.E.A.M is a prime example of that. They're giving you everything that's going on in the inner city, and there's even the drugs and violence, but the explanation of it is it's almost like, well, the beat comes first, the concept comes first, the rhyme comes first.
It hooks you. I mean, the hook is something else, man. The hook is like an important thing, and I think, I mean, that's why. I mean, that's what you said. That's why it crosses over, right? Like pretty much everybody my age, regardless of like racial background or how they grew up or whatever, knows like cash rules everything around me. C.R.E.A.M, get the money, dollar dollar. But like that's a thing that phrase, even if people don't know where it comes from originally, like they're if they hear that, they're like, oh yeah, like I know, I at least recognize that.
No, Andrew, you said something very poignant and absolutely correct and spot on. When I do according to hip hop, a lot of the time, I say C.R.E.A.M is the greatest hook in the history of hip hop. And you just spoke to why that is. Like right now, we're in our 40s. We can go walk into a room. You and I, we can walk in together right now. It doesn't matter where it is. If there is a room full of white people, 10 years older than us, Andrew, in their 50s, and I say, cash rules everything around me.
All the white shout C.R.E.A.M.
C.R.E.A.M, get the money, dollar bill, y'all. Like 10 years older than us and all white, they'll say that. That speaks to the strength and the staying power and the connectivity and that sneaky great crossover appeal to that song. They didn't make that song to cross over. The theme of it crossed over. The creativity crossed over. The greatness of it crossed over. Method Man, who has one of the greatest voices in hip hop history.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's a big part of that, because here's the thing. So Old Dirty Bastard, to a lot of people on Into the Wu-Tang, is Scottie Pippen, the Method Man's Michael Jordan. C.R.E.A.M's not the same if Old Dirty Bastard singing the hook. C.R.E.A.M's not the same if Raekwon singing the hook. So Method Man's voice and how special his voice is. Well, Cream's the first evidence of that too.
Yeah. So, like, again, I am coming to this as somebody who is not not a connoisseur is not the word I want to use, but not somebody who's well versed in Wu-Tang history. But like, his voice I recognize immediately. Like, and the other voices are distinctive too, but I don't know that I could pick them out. Like, but Meth's voice is like, wherever you hear it is just like it's like, oh, that's him.
Right. That's Method Man. So when you're saying that, so he's great as an MC, but clearly in terms of voice, one of the 5 greatest voices hip hop
so
has ever heard.
It's like a Morgan Freeman kind of voice. I mean, it's that kind of distinct.
So let's get into the instrumentation of voice. There are some people's whose voices are powerful and authoritative and strong and clear and crisp. And that's what makes their voice so great. I'll give you 4 examples of it. Ice Cube, Chuck D, Tupac, KRS-One. All of those guys' voices, beautiful. They're not Method Man and they're not Biggie. Their voices are different, Andrew.
Yeah. Those are the 2 of the voices that you hear that you recognize like immediately.
As soon as in they can say one word and you're like, that's Method Man or that's Biggie Smalls. That's the specialty in their voice. In my opinion, the 2 greatest voices in hip hop history belong to Biggie and Method Man. And we can argue if you want to do 1 or 2 or do a tie. And then I would go Tupac, Chuck D, KRS-One, Nas, Rakim are all in there. But those 2 guys specifically, Biggie and Method Man, about Mike, there's something about their voice that's authoritative and smooth and inviting at the same time. Yeah.
It draws you in. And one of the things
I got to cut that out. Andrew,
yeah, man. God. No.
New podcast.
I should like go. I'll go in the editing studio later and just bleep it out.
You can't bleep it out and make it just seem like I was cursing at you or something. Right?
Just like cover up your mouth, put a little box over your mouth too. No, the thing, and the hook is something. I mean, some of the other stuff going on too is cool because, like at the beginning, you have, I don't know, before I listened to the song closely at the beginning, before he starts in the verse, I thought he was saying cash rules everything, like he was doing that, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but like it's being looped, right? It's like cash rules everything, and it stops, and then cash rules, and he goes to Cream the second time, I think, and then the third time he goes like all the way through, and then the beat drops. Am I remembering that right now?
You're remembering that perfectly. Okay. So that's very comparable to a singer doing runs. That's him warming up for the hook. That's one of those brilliant producer moments where Method Man was probably just doing his runs, practicing the hook before the beat drop, and RZA chose to keep it. It's one of those intricate moments that you're highlighting to make the song special. So yes, those things are happening, but that's similar to a singer doing a run where he's practicing.
He's warming up.
He's warming up, and that's Old Dirty Bastard harmonizing at the beginning with the ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah. That's Old Dirty Bastard. Yeah,
that's nice, man. Yeah. And the other really cool thing about this is even before we get into like the lyrics and the verse and whatever and how all that's put together, which is I'm sure you can say more about than me, but like there's also that for such a gritty song, and I'm using your word there. It's got this I'm not even gonna pretend to try to sing it, but like the little piano riff thing or keyboard riff that goes over the top of it. That's not like an ice cream truck exactly, but it's a really it contrasts with the feeling of the song, right? And it gives another layer to what's going on, and I think that's really freaking cool too.
Well, no, most hip hop heads do think that is an ice cream truck sample. As far as RZA's catalog, most people think that his 2 best beats are Cream and a record off Raekwon's album Only Built for Cuban Links, which also has Method Man on the hook, called Ice Cream. When you listen to Ice Cream, you can hear the clear ice cream truck sample, but it's a play off the original one. I think it's just a one-time loop that they do on Cream that you're talking about.
It sounds like it, yeah.
it's looped multiple times on Ice Cream. Method Man's on the hook again. Andrew, let me tell you something. To these two records, Method Man's hooks on these two records are two of the 5 greatest hooks in the history of hip hop to me. In terms of the craft of emceeing, Ice Cream is actually a better hook than Cream, just not as important and not as groundbreaking. Cream was first.
Right.
But Method Man's voice and intricacy are essential in both of those records, and so is the Ice Cream Truck sample. So that's your musical ear being spot on, and RZA being spot on and playing it later on what's considered to be the greatest project out the group.
Yeah, like it's one of the things I've noticed, and we'll talk more about this as we get throughout the series too, but one of the things that one of the things that I see as a unifying point between a lot of the hip hop songs that cross over is they have hooks that are singable, that have some kind of melody to them. And Cream, actually, the hook is not melodic, really. Like, you're not singing it, you're saying it. But it does have that same catchy quality to it. And I think that piano thing goes along with that to kind of drive it in to your brain.
Yes, there's a lot of so Cream is the first beat that I ever rapped over as an MC, and looking back on it, it is what I like to call it's as great as a simple stupid beat that you're going to find. Like, the loop's not complicated, the beat breaks not complicated, the drums not complicated, the keys not complicated. But when you put a lot of simple things together that go together well, what you have is a nice meal. And so never has the simplicity on the production side of hip hop really been as beautiful of that. There's nothing complicated going on. The whole Enter the Wu-Tang, what makes RZA so great is that there's nothing complicated going on. It's the simple done exceptionally well by a producer. Now, it helps when you have all-time great MCs rhyming over your beats. Because in Method Man, in ODB, in Raekwon,
it's a long list.
Ghostface, Jizza, and Inspector Deck. Oh, well, you have some of the greatest guys to ever bless the mic, and that's always going to make your...
And all together, too.
Right, and all together and on one accord for the only time that they're ever really on one accord. So all of those things are a beautiful moment, but the ability, and this is what I mean about it's the first beat that I rhymed over, it's the type of beat that if you're an MC, it makes you want to rap to it. There's something about it inherent.
It pulls you in. Yeah.
It pulls you in. Big draw-in factor. It's like there's something about the way it loops, because you want to know it, and this is what I mean about the simple, stupid part. It makes you feel like everybody can catch it, and everybody can catch it. And then you find out that you're not Raekwon, you're not back, and
nobody is, right?
Man. Right. And then you find out you're not those guys. And so can we go to the important part in terms of how it related to the culture? Because the Method Man
for sure
is why it crossed over. But Andrew.
Yeah, we got to get into the verses, man.
I don't think that there's a all-time great rap song that is as lyrically as strong as this song.
Yeah. It's nice. Like, the first lines... Like I don't want to be like too English teachery about this. Sorry, guys.
No,
but the internal rhyme in that first line, grew up on the crime side, the New York Times side, like the I, and all of those words it's not just like at the ends of the lines. It's like cut all the way through those words. Like it's like I wrote it down somewhere. I'm not looking it out now, but it's like 5 or 6 of the words in those lines. Or 7 or 8, I mean, a bunch.
He starts off, I grew up on the crime side, the New York Times side. Staying alive was no job. Had second hands. Moms bounced on old mans. So then we moved to Shaolin land. So he, right there, is expressing what a lot of young Black men as youth experience as Black men in the first four bars. I grew up on the crime side. The relatability is immediate because of the first bar.
Right.
Like you're hearing the hook and it draws you in.
But and then the beat drops and it goes right at that.
Right. And that's what I mean. So they're on point and they're on message. I grew up on the crime side. The New York Times side, staying alive was no job. Well, if you're from similar backgrounds and similar beginnings, you're immediately, you're there. So did I. Keep going. Had second hands. That's hand-me-downs. That means we couldn't afford new clothes.
Right.
That's the poverty coming into play. Mom's bounced on old man's. That means he wasn't treating her right.
Right.
A lot of us in this community grow up without our fathers about their behavior, not even about them wanting to be there. It's their behavior. Mm-hmm. Is it conducive to what the women want for the future of their children? And so sometimes we grow up as single parents, not because dad's not there, because mom's not having it, because dad being there is potentially a bad influence.
Okay.
So explaining mom's bounced on old man's, like this ain't your typical single Black parent family story. Right. He didn't leave us. She left.
Kicked him out.
Right. Like she's not having his shit. I come from a strong Black woman. You hear how quick the contextualization of everything? This is the first 3, 4, 5, 6 bars of the song. Yeah. So Raekwon, and he's considered to be like the street cornerstone of the group. Well, he cemented it right there because he spoke to a lot of things going on in our community and what we feel and the things that we see, and even the flip side to the game with the mother leaving the father and us being without dad because of that reason. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gives you all of that right there in those first few bars.
I say that's just at the very beginning, right? Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, it's such a beautiful song. Like, and it's one of those things that, like, I love listening to you talk about it because I don't know a ton about it. And and obviously that was not, well, maybe not obviously to the audience, but it was not my lived experience. Though I probably just have been around more just because of where we went to high school than most people who look like me that are my age. But it's definitely not my lived experience. So one of the cool things, and this is one of the awesome things about music and these conversations, is that it's like reading a poem or reading a novel, or I mean, it is a poem, obviously, but like it allows people who did not have. You talked about like how it makes a lot of people feel seen, right? And like this is my experience too. Like I understand where you're coming from or whatever. But it also, for people who did not have that lived experience, will not give it to them, because you could never have that. You could not go back and have it. But it allows you a window into what that was like from somebody who has lived it.
So there's another thing that you're touching on that's very important. There's a vulnerability to this song. Part of rap is machismo, bravado, your aura, your pride, your ego. This record is frighteningly vulnerable. The rhetoric expressed by the MCs is frighteningly vulnerable. The guys that are coming before them are not letting this type of vulnerability be shown, outside of LL Cool J and Big Daddy Kane, who were being excoriated for it. Rakim briefly with Mahogany touched on it, but he did it in such a cool and calm manner that is indicative of his style. And the record is so great that kind of a hall pass for that. So the vulnerability of the record matters, because they're talking about rough circumstances. They're talking about rough circumstances that most great MCs that come before us don't express on a personal level.
Right. And they're talking about it also, if I'm understanding correctly, not exactly from a child's perspective, but from like you're seeing it a little bit from like a younger person's perspective, and not like a fully grown person who's like looking back on their experiences, but they're reanimating
this is
childhood experience.
This is them from like ages 11 to 16.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's some 11 to 16 going on in terms of the scenery that's being painted by the artist. But here's what I'm saying, and you know this because you're an English teacher. What most great rap artists did before them, Tupac has a lot to do with changing that. they talk emotionally about what's going on in their neighborhood, but not what's going on with them. Okay. Raekwon and Inspector Deck on this record, they're talking about what's going on with them. Raekwon's on there, same damn low sweater. Times is rough and tough like leather. That's meaning I'm wearing the same polo sweater that mom's got me last year. We can't afford a new sweater. So I'm wearing the same polo sweater that she got me for Christmas last year, this year. Then there's the hip hop head contextualization. Times is rough and tough like leather. That's Run DMC. So he's getting the hip hop head, then letting them know times is rough and tough like leather. Like, so he's bringing his culture into it. It's personal, you know?
Right. He's referencing things that came before him too.
Right. Inspector Deck, handcuffed in the back of a bus, 40 of us. Life as a shorty shouldn't be so rough. But as the world turned, I learned life was hell. Living in a world no different from a cell. Every day I escape from Jakes, the Jakes of the police. Every day I escape from Jakes giving chase, selling bass. Like I'm a drug dealer already. And I'm smoking bones in the staircase. And now I'm smoking cigarettes because I'm stressed. I'm selling drugs. The police are after me. I've already been incarcerated.
Yeah. And just the poetics of that, like all the A's echoing each other. Like, I mean, it's not nuts. It's amazing. Like it's and this is one of the things that I'm learning the more I'm listening to these songs closely. Like C.R.E.A.M is one of those songs that obviously I was familiar with just with the hook. Like, I mean, and I'd listen to the whole song or whatever, but not like closely. Right. And it's the intricacy of the rhymes in the verses are astounding. Yes. Because I mean, traditionally, I mean, I think in hip hop history too, we'll talk about this later, I'm sure in a different episode, but they would just rhyme the end of the lines. And that's a poetry thing going back to like, you know, that's 1400s or whatever. Right. But
yeah, I think it's older than that, Andrew.
But yeah, it goes back way back. So I sort of was trying to say like in the English language, I guess I didn't say that part out loud, but yes, it goes way back, way beyond that too. But they are echoing sounds in the middle of lines and consecutive words and using that, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but using that to like connect the lines together. Like the end rhymes are different than the ones in the middle of the lines, and the ones in the middle of the lines connect the lines.
Double entendre rhyme scheme. Yes.
Yeah. It's sick is what it is. It's beautiful.
So that even within itself, there were only all the MCs that had the capability of doing that, of what you're talking about, all of those guys were solo MCs for. So imagine the effect of hip hop listeners who loved hip hop, hearing guys they had never heard before who weren't solo MCs that were part of this big group that had the capability to do the things that you're talking about rhyme-wise.
And a bunch of them.
A bunch of them that they had only heard the greatest MCs talk like this. And those guys were all solo guys. Rakim, KRS, Cool G Rap, Big Daddy Kane. It's like, these guys are in a group? Yeah.
And they're friends and yeah, sure.
And they rap together and they're understanding each other. One of the important things about C.R.E.A.M on a hip hop level that people often don't realize or talk about, Raekwon's biggest and oftentimes, and in my opinion, best solo song is a song called Incarcerated Scarfaces. If you listen to Inspector Deck on C.R.E.A.M, they hit me with the case Scarface, incarcerated, base, going upstate, my destination. Raekwon took the bar from C.R.E.A.M that Inspector Deck used and made it into the biggest rap song of his career. Like, that's his seminal moment as an MC, is Incarcerated Scarfaces. It's actually what Inspector Deck's referencing on C.R.E.A.M when you listen to the verse. I forget exactly how it goes. It's been so long. Something caught me with a case, Scarface, incarcerated, basin, going upstate, my destination, handcuffed the back of it. But Raekwon flipped his man's bars and made a whole song out of it. That was what was nice. So beautiful. Right. And so there was something beautiful about the synergy. There's a beat that plays on Method Man's album, and it's like the sickest beat on the album outside of Bring the Pain. You don't hear it pop back up to Raekwon's album, which is 2 albums later, and it's the same beat, and it plays back, and you're like, oh shit, that's the beat I was waiting for. So they were connecting the dots with each other too. So there's a lot of beautiful stuff going on that you didn't even realize when C.R.E.A.M dropped. It's like, oh shit, these guys had a plan the whole time. They had a plan to line it up each other and use each other and line it up. The beat's called Guillotine on Only Built for Cuban Links. It's track 7. I think it's the interlude. I think right before Meth versus Chef. Raekwon's the only person on on Tikal that's a rapper from the Wu-Tang Clan. Like, it's just Raekwon on there. It's Raekwon, it's Meth versus Chef. It's a freestyle battle between Method Man and Raekwon. Method Man won the battle, so the track ended up on his album, not Raekwon's. But when the track cuts on, it's the Guillotine beat that ends up on Raekwon's album. And so it's almost like Ray lost that beat on the battle and ended up on Method Man's album. He asked for the beat that the song started off with, which was actually a better beat and turned out being a better song than the song that they did. Because Guillotine on Cuban Links is one of Wu-Tang Clan's best crew songs.
Oh, cool.
So they were connected early on with the mission, down to the beats, down to the rhymes, down to how it happened. Yeah.
That's nice.
They would rhyme live on mic for beats. Meth vs. Chef is them freestyling against each other for the beat. If you listen to the record at the end, Raekwon's like, oh shit, because he knows he lost. Because Method Man did this thing with his flow at the end where he just killed Ray, and Ray came in on the second verse, but he didn't have nothing for Meth that day, and it's on Method Man's album. And so they're letting you know we're competitive in here.
And they're making each other better. I would assume, right?
Yeah. So there's a lot of things going on. C.R.E.A.M is the first evidence of all those things. You can go back to C.R.E.A.M.
They're all like coming together.
Right. Everything that they were doing about coming together and how it came together, you can go back to C.R.E.A.M and be like, that's where it all came together the first time. It's super special. I think it's one of the 5 best rap songs ever. And if you were to tell me it was the best rap song ever, I would not argue with you, because it has everything that you would want out of the greatest rap song of all time. Is it important? Yes.
Yep.
Is it impactful? Yes. Are the rhymes all-time great? Yes. Is the hook all-time great? It's the greatest. Is the beat great? Every MC has been rhyming on it since the day that it came out.
Yep.
So it has everything that the all-time greatest song of all time in hip-hop has. So it's in that type of conversation. Special, special record.
Yeah, man. So this is, I don't know exactly how to segue to the other part of the song, because I'm always kind of embarrassed to get into the rock and roll version or rock and roll part of this, because I am not nearly the expert on Bruce Springsteen, particularly in this case, that you are about the other stuff. But we can talk about a little bit about how the song's put together and like what its significance is and like all that kind of stuff. Like this song, Born to Run, is one of the reasons I paired it with C.R.E.A.M is that it was also the breakout hit for Bruce. That song particularly, not just the record, because the album is called Born to Run too.
Yes.
And this is in the, I'm going to show my lack of research here, mid-70s, I believe.
I want to say 72 or 74.
Yeah, it's 70 something for sure. So it's obviously an older record, but it is all one of the reason I chose this to pair is that both of these songs speak to I guess Born to Run is kind of sort of the white industrial version of the same kind of thing. It's obviously not, when you compare the two, it's not as serious, but like it's still the young man feeling of, I have to break out of this thing. Like this place that I've grown up is crushing me, right?
So let's talk about something, Andrew. And you spoke to a lot of things, and this is the second straight episode that we've done where you've spoke to it. So we kind of have to unpack it and really just address it for what it's worth. The struggle of your people is not as intricate as the struggle of my people.
True.
And so the expression of the struggle is not going to be as intricate. How intricate are you going to get with a struggle? And I'm not trying to say that there are not white people in America who do not struggle.
Clearly.
Because that would not be accurate or true. But in the cumulative thought process of things, what you're finding between these two records, because I get what you're saying, well, the music is showing the difference in the struggle.
Mm.
And our struggle is deep and intricate, and it reflects in the music because what you have is deep and intricate thoughts and schemes and patterns in words. Because the struggle is not as deep on your side, what you are going to find is more riffs, more melodies, more of the ancillary things that make a song great, whereas on the hip hop side, what usually makes the song great is that intricate expression of the culture. Another example of that is Nothing But a G Thing. It's an intricate expression of West Coast life in a day. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Gin and
sure.
juice. Those intricate expressions, the intricate expressions come from the intricate struggle. If the struggle's not an intricate, how can you expect the expression of the artist to be? So he's expressing it to the best of his capability. It's just not as deep because, quite frankly, he's living in a white man's world. So a struggle's only going to have but so many depths.
He's using, I guess, we'll put the links to both of the songs in the little description down below. So people, if you're not familiar with these songs from either side of the spectrum or whatever, can go listen to them if they've never heard them before. I would imagine that both of them, you may not recognize them necessarily by the title, but when you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. Like at the football game or the basketball, they play them over the speakers and crap all the time. This is a song where they use cars as a metaphor for relationships, for romance, for breaking free, for all of those things, right? I mean, this is a long history of all music, all rock and roll music, really, but especially with white artists. I mean, it goes back to the Beach Boys, it goes back beyond to the Beatles, it goes back way beyond that to where you're using a car as a metaphor for a woman, for your love, for whatever. I still think Prince did it better than anybody when he did Little Red Corvette's probably the best example of this, but it's the same genre, it's the same kind of metaphor.
Can we pause for a second?
Yeah.
So I have Little Red Corvette over here in parentheses because I'm a big Prince fan. I think Prince is the greatest artist who ever lived. Do you want a little backstory right quick?
Yeah, please put a little backstory in there.
Prince used to go watch Bruce Springsteen perform. Part of the rationale behind that was because he could not understand how Bruce Springsteen was packing out these stadiums because he did not think that as a songwriter, Bruce Springsteen was that great. Little Red Corvette is his rebuttal to Born to Run.
Is it really?
Because Little Red Corvette got written around the time right after Born in the USA came out.
It was mid-'80s, early 80s, yeah.
And Prince was actually going to Bruce Springsteen shows to watch him perform. Because this is, when if I'm not mistaken, Born in the USA is 1981, 82.
I think it might be a little later than I don't know. I mean, I know Reagan used it as an anthem for one of his election campaigns, and Springsteen got pissed off about it because that's not what the song's about. But
right. We need to contextualize that because it's super important to get the date of it.
Yeah,
it's June 1984.
It was Born in the USA.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go right quick and see when Purple Rain came out, because now you'll get what I'm saying. Yeah. July 1984.
Yeah. So soon thereafter.
Soon thereafter. So he was going to see Springsteen perform.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm trying to say is that Springsteen, Born to Run, the album was so big, if I'm not mistaken, it's like a 6-7 year gap between Born in the USA and
mm-hmm. Oh, there was a lot of space between the two. There may have even been another album between the two. Mm-hmm. Again, sorry guys, I'm not a Springsteen. I don't say I'm not a fan, but like I'm not a scholar at all. So
no. We need to figure that out, because that's important to what I'm about to say. Yes, Born to Run is 1975. Okay. Born in the USA is 1984. That's a 9-year difference. Now, for somebody like Prince, who's a Black artist, who is as genius as he is, coming up in the late 70s and early 80s, watching Bruce Springsteen pack out these stadiums off Born to Run. You get what I mean? Mm-hmm. He feels like, and he's even, Andrew, there's a Rolling Stone article where he talks about, where he's like, I wasn't that impressed. Like, I don't get why people love him so much. Little Red Corvette was part of that. Like, a lot of those songs that he wrote around that time, they're not even about contemporary R&B artists. They're about Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen. That's who Prince was shooting for. Born to Run and the car references is a direct correlation to why Prince made Little Red Corvette. So
that's cool. I didn't know that was like it seems, just listening to the songs, that they're pretty obviously related.
Prince thought he could do it better. That's what he's saying. He's like, I can do what he does better. That's your guy. That's the best guy you got. Watch this.
Now Prince is like, this is not a Prince episode, obviously, but we could do a whole one on, like, the man was a genius. Like, it's nuts. The talent that the guy had. Springsteen is also in like the Bob Dylan like school. Mm-hmm. Like Dylan was one of his guys too. So a lot of the ways the lines are put together and a lot of the ways the songs are structured are taken from Bob Dylan too. And also, I think we've mentioned this in previous conversations, not on air or whatever, but that neither of them, and Tom Petty too, he's another example of this. We'll get to him in a later episode as well. None of them are what you would call virtuoso singers, right? They're not, their voices are distinctive. Like, you know that they're them when you hear them, but they're not, there's, 50 people we went to high school sing better than that. Like, they're not incredibly melodic, right? So
no,
they're about the lyrics. They're not about the melodies are compelling and the beats are compelling, but that's not their skill set.
I don't know if I totally agree with you. One of the contextualizations that I made between C.R.E.A.M and Born to Run was that, very much like Method Man, for his genre of music, Bruce Springsteen's voice is very funky and distinctive.
It's incredibly distinctive. Yeah, you know it immediately.
So Andrew, I listen to all types of music, and when I go into that spectrum, he's not who I listen to per se. More likely listen to Tom Petty and Bob Dylan, to be frank, like 10 times out of 10 over Springsteen on a personal level. But as soon as Born to Run came on, I knew exactly who it was. I was like, that's Bruce Springsteen. And so there's some Method Man Biggie going on with Bruce Springsteen, where it's like, well, he jumps on the track and it's like, well, that's Bruce, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So here's something else that I thought about when I heard the record. His voice is kind of rough and kind of powerful, like a Mustang.
Mm-hmm. And he's talking about all those cars, right? That's the whole...
Right. So the car reference, but no, it makes sense because of his voice. I was like, this car reference makes sense if nothing else, because his voice is rough and powerful, just like the Mustang is. Mm-hmm. And so I thought about that too. And then I thought about, well, what artist in my genre is like that? And guess who I came up with? You'll be surprised. Tina Turner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because
Tina does that.
Smooth and rough at once, stylistically and vocally, is what I put down when I heard Born to Run. And I was like, that's what Tina Turner does so exceptionally well. It's smooth, but it's rough and it's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so he's gifted.
He is.
Yes.
He's his shows are legendary because not because they're so long, that sounds bad, but like it because he's a performer that like drains himself in front of like the audience. So it goes the shows are legendarily like 3 and 4 hours long. They're like forever and ever and ever. Um and so that like giving of himself to the audience is part of his appeal to that's part of the deal. Like I mean that's part of the thing.
Andrew, spot on. My last note is the stick. I put the stick because there was a documentary called The Defiant Ones that came out.
Yeah, you told me about that. It's awesome.
Right, it is. It talks about Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine's comeuppance in the music business separately and how they merged together.
Right.
Jimmy Iovine is the engineer, the lead engineer on Born to Run.
Exactly.
And on The Defiant Ones, he's talking about this 2 or 3 week period where Bruce is talking about the drums on the record,
trying to get it right,
trying to get the drums right. Stick, and he keeps stick for 6. I think it's like 6 weeks or something, and he's driving Jimmy and everybody crazy.
Yeah, he is a little bit obsessive for sure.
No. That's the giving to himself that you're talking about on stage. No. Well, that means it's legit because that's the same guy that's staying stick in the studio while Born to Run's being recorded. So he's not a normal artist. He's giving all of himself in the studio and on stage.
Right, exactly.
Right.
I want to do a little you talked briefly, and we talked in the previous episode too when we were doing Blowing in the Wind, about the simplicity of you talked a little earlier today about the simplicity of the music and the whatever. If I can like humor you and play this for a second. Like so the rock and roll music generally is based on the 1, 4, and 5. Do you guys? And I guess 1. So it's the root, and then the 4 and 5. That's 1 because it's the low note of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. So and 5. So, but those 3 chords, or versions of those 3 chords, depending on what key you're in, are like the root of most of these songs. So. Like in Blowing in the Wind, it goes 4, 1.
Saying it's not complex what's going on.
Right, it's not complex at all. But
playing the guitar is hard.
But you use the same 3 chords for. I mean, it's in a different key. Born to Run is, but it's the same 3. It's like. Right. When did you let me in? I'm gonna be your friend. Dreams and visions. I should have the lyrics pulled up. So it's the same 3. It's a little bit different pattern, but it's the same basic 1, 4, 5.
But that's just like the drum machine in hip hop. Boom, boom, clap. Boom, boom, clap, and then snare. You know?
Yeah,
boom,
for
clap.
sure.
Yeah, same thing.
And then you have the 4, 5, 1 like at the end of the lines too. Like that's how the end of the courses tend to resolve, right? Like the let's see, how's it go? The answer is blowing in the wind, right? It's how it resolves. And this is tramps like us, baby, we were born to run. I mean, it's the same resolving of it too. So some of that is, Springsteen coming from the Dylan school of whatever, and some of it is just I could play you. I can't, not from memory, but I could play you another 100 songs that do that too. Yeah. So, I
mean, all hip hop beats originally come from Clyde Stubblefield, who was the drummer for James Brown. So you can go pull like almost every beat from like 85 to 89. And it's pretty much all of Clyde's drum loops, So No ideas original in the house.
Yeah, no, it's just cool to see how all the pieces connect. And like I totally love, like, and again, the reason why these songs I think fit together is that they both speak to the experience similarly and dissimilarly, of how young people feel like constrained and trapped and like held back by the world that they're living in. And so I think that's where one of the many ways they connect.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, for sure.
About the artist and not about the song. I know we
Mhm.
discussed the merits and the intricacies of the song, but I do wonder about Bruce Springsteen sometime from this perspective. Was he in the right place at the right time, Andrew? Like, who is his audience and what is his audience exactly in terms of what he provides? Because his following is massive and he's kind of ingratiated in a way musically as a fabric of our society in a way that very few artists are. When I listen to the music, I don't necessarily always hear that. But when I look at the time that he came around,
Yeah. It's a working class.
he's like the working class rock star, right?
Yeah, and that's always been. I don't want to say it's his shtick. I mean, you've seen enough of him, like in the Iovine documentary and stuff like that. That is who he is. Like, it's not.
Like,
He's not like putting it on. He's
he's a working class hard dude. Like, he come from a tough city. Like, yeah, all that.
But yeah, I think he caught that wave, and. I like I said, I'm not a Bruce Springsteen scholar, so I don't really know. But
I mean, I just talk. How about this? Like, just for me, and it just appears to be around the same time. I think Tom Petty's music is much better.
Tom Petty's got serious hits.
Tom
Like,
Petty.
we'll talk about him more in a later episode too. But like he's got.
Just find him as an overall musician and artist to be superior than Springsteen. So when I see how large Springsteen is, I'm thinking like wasn't Tom Petty like around the same time? And I know Tom Petty's big, but
Tom Petty was a little bit after, but yeah, I mean that's.
Is it after? Okay.
But like late 70s, early 80s is when he had. Well, again, we'll talk about this more later, but like he had 2 or maybe even 3 like peaks, early 80s and then like around 1990-ish, and then again.
Who, Tom Petty?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember like the Rebel Without a Clue. Johnny Depp was in the video. That's when Jump Street was out. I remember all that. Petty was.
He had lots of peaks and whatever. And I mean, Dylan did, Springsteen did. I mean, Springsteen's more. I mean, he's continued performing. I mean, he's still writing music today. Like he's still like putting out albums and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but his big peaks are Born to Run and Born in the USA. Those are like those are the cream version. Like they're the ones. I mean, they're great songs on the other records too, but those are the ones that crossed over that like everybody knows.
So right. So this is what I mean when I'm saying about him. How many artists only have 2 albums that are revered in his genre that get held up this high?
Yeah, like. And I don't want. I don't know Bruce and your fans. I don't want to like dismiss what you're doing. Like, I mean,
no, I'm asking valid questions. I feel like though, because I don't know much outside of Born to Run and Born in the USA. That's 75 and 84. Like when he gets talked about like an American version of the Beatles sometime as a solo artist. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. The Beatles had like
Peppers and Abbey Road and the White Album.
Yeah.
It's just a long list where it's like, well, oh no. Okay. I get it. Same thing with the Stones.
Stones had many years of stuff. Like
viable stuff that's like great. Like when my Infiniti was getting fixed, I had to go get a rental car from the dealership. Like, you know, one of their loaner cars.
Sure.
It had it on the Stones XM radio. I played the Stones XM radio for like 2 days straight, Andrew. And
that's good stuff, man.
It's good stuff. Bruce Springsteen doesn't have 2 days worth of material that me as somebody who doesn't viably like I'm not part of your fan base per se. I'm not part of the Rolling Stones fan base too, but I love great music. And so I can listen to the Rolling Stones for 2 days straight on XM radio. I can't do that with Bruce Springsteen. So some of it I don't understand, quite frankly.
Yeah. Like it's never been, again, I'm sorry, Bruce, and I'm sorry to your fans, but who are going to come in the comments and yell at me probably, but like that's not ever been my thing either. Like it's fine now. I enjoy it. Like, and I like that song, but like it's, and I thought it was worth talking about because I think it has interesting connections with the Wu-Tang song. But is it something that like I habitually listen to or whatever? And maybe it was designed for a generation older than me. I mean, the people who are like the Bruce Springsteen, like hardcore Bruce Springsteen people are like Jon Stewart, kind of those ages. And I mean, Jon Stewart obviously grew up in New Jersey too. So like it's a different, that has a different connection too. But maybe somebody in the comments can explain like what the deal is. Like, I mean, I like Bruce, but it's not a religion for me.
Yeah, that's what I mean about when I listen to the music. I'm like, okay, so sometimes in music, there are people who are great and he's great, but they catch people at the right time. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
You catch people at the right time. And if you're talented enough, that moment will make a career out of it. There are some people that have a moment, but because they're not talented enough, like Vanilla Ice had a moment, sold 17 records worldwide, but the fabric of the material and the cloth that he was cut off, well, it really wasn't that solid, you know?
Yep.
Bruce is solid, but I don't know if he's as solid musically as people are saying. Like, because even with Blowing in the Wind from the previous episode, I just enjoyed that record so much more. It's like I enjoy Dylan so much more. And I find when I venture off into that realm, I find more than a few artists that I'm going to take over Bruce. Like, I'd rather hear Fleetwood Mac Rumors.
Yeah. Fleetwood Mac's Rumors is a great record.
It's a beautiful Silver Springs. What is it? What is it? Dust Lady?
Gold Dust Woman.
Gold Dust Woman. Yeah. Like that shit. Like I listen to that before I listen to Bruce Springsteen. So it's like I listen to the White Album by the Beatles before I listen to Bruce Springsteen. I'm definitely playing all things Nirvana before Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
All things.
Nirvana's a whole different deal. I mean, we'll talk about Nirvana later too, but like that's a whole different. I mean, it's not coming. I would even argue, I mean, that Nirvana is a response to, not an anti-Bruce Springsteen as much as it is an anti, like, Def Leppard, but it's still positioned in response to that more so than in the...
Nirvana is saying your rock stars suck.
Mm-hmm.
Like the rock stars you have suck. We have something for you. That's how I took them. That's why I gravitated towards them. It was like the anti. It's like we're rock stars, but we're real rock stars. These guys suck. That's how I took the approach from them as a kid. It's like we're real rock stars. These guys suck. Let's go.
They're coming from the, not to get too deep into this in an episode that has nothing to do with it, but like they're coming into it from the punk in indie angle instead of the classic rock.
Right.
Springsteen is fusing pieces of like Dylan, like the folk traditions, but also some of the heavier riff-based stuff, the Zeppelins and that kind of stuff too.
So I was about to say, so is it like some like
but then you got the saxophone in there too, you know.
Like Johnny Cash meets Def Leppard type of thing with Springsteen or something, where it's like kind of folkish, but kind of like rough and hard too. Is that what he was trying to find?
Yeah, he's middle ground. Yeah, I think so. I mean, like it's certainly, he's got the lyricism, or is in the in the world of the Dylan's lyricism. Like he's not trying to do that. That sounds dismissive, but like he's doing that kind of thing. And, but it's certainly, I wouldn't call it heavier really. I mean, all of the artists that we've said, Zeppelin and Def Leppard and like Sabbath, and I mean, all of those kind are way, way heavier than the Springsteen is. I don't think he's trying to do that, but, it's certainly an electrified version. And he's got like keys and saxophone and that kind of stuff in there too. So,
okay. Listen to what I'm about to say, and I want to be careful about how I say this. Is there something about the rhetoric lyrically Bruce Springsteen has a songwriter that resonates in white culture more so that it's carried the way that it has? I guess that's the real question that I'm asking. I think I've been looking for an answer to a question that I haven't been asking you properly. And so I think
I see what you're asking, I think.
What I'm saying, does it, because something about him resonates in the fabric of the generation of your culture that precedes you, that I don't hear musically. It's like, no, I hear good music, but
it's not like that though.
Right. The way that it's like that, it's like, okay, what is it about him that's resonating? Is there something in the time that he espoused, the word that he espoused, that's resonating? Because it's like, I understand that he's a rock star. I've had people from his generation tell me, about 10 years older than us, he's the last real rock star to them. That's what I mean.
And he absolutely is a rock star. Like he's that, he's a performer for sure. Like he's,
but what people are saying, but when white people in America in their 40s and 50s and 60s feel like he's the last real rock star, what has he done to them musically that I can go back to from outside the culture and be like, oh, I get that? Because part of what got me into Nirvana was that Kurt Cobain was the biggest rock star on earth. And it's like, oh no, I could see that. I could hear that. That was real. It's like, no. He is a rock star. No, he's the biggest rock star on earth. No, he's an excellent songwriter and
yes, he
player. Is. I'm in. He's a songwriter of the highest order, in my opinion. So about all those things, seeing people from your culture be in on him, when I heard him, I could understand everything, everybody. I was like, I see why everybody's batshit crazy about Nirvana and about him. It makes total sense on every level. Musically, songwriting, look, persona, the interviews. This guy's a rock star. What about Bruce Springsteen resonates like that? Because there are people from his generation that call him the last rock star, like Kurt Cobain didn't live.
Yeah. Like, and they aged out of it before Kurt Cobain hit, I guess. But no, Springsteen, I think.
Hold on. Born to Run, if Born to Run is in 84.
Born to Run 75. Born in the USA. Yeah.
Yeah, Born in the USA is 84.
Yeah.
What time? When did Nirvana's first album come out? 90?
91. Yeah.
91?
Well, 90 really. I mean, like Nevermind was 91.
Right. So they're not that aged out of that. They're 6 years removed from Born in the USA. It's stylistically a whole nother world, but they're not aged out of rock.
Yeah, that's true. No, Springsteen, I think one of the things that he does that is different than anybody or most people who came before him, because the people who came before that, the huge ones, the Led Zeppelins with Robert Plant and whatever, and the Beatles and the Stones and whatever that came before that, were people that seemed like, and Elvis too. I mean, we talked about him before too. Like were larger than life figures. Like they were people to like look up to, almost like gods, right? He was one of the. I'm speculating here, okay, but this makes sense to me. So again, people in the comments can correct me, but like he seems like one of the first guys that you could see and see yourself as being that person, right? Like he the way, like he's not dressing in like leather pants to make his balls show out, like Robert Plant would. He's not like having these legendary parties after his things where he's having
I got it.
lines of like he's the guy that you could, which is one of the reasons I'm sure that Reagan stole his song, is that he's the guy you could have a beer with, right? He's the guy that you don't feel like would think he's better than you, and that came from somewhere that you recognize and is using imagery with cars and stuff that you recognize.
Oh, right? Stop right there, Andrew. You said something special right there, because you were just able to contextualize something for me as a Black man about Bruce Springsteen outside of music and listen to what I'm about to say. Everything that you just said about Bruce Springsteen is exactly what I tell to my Black friends when they ask me how George W. Bush got elected.
Right. It's the same thing, right? That's what I was thinking as I was saying that. Like,
same thing. Because I used to tell people, it's like, nah, he's getting in because you can smoke a joint and have a beer with him and go to the ball game and kick it. You almost feel like if his wife's out of town, he might want to get into some trouble with you. He's normal. Yeah. And his wife seems more like your wife. It's like, oh, she don't let him do nothing or have no fun. It's like soon as she goes out of town, he's gonna cut a fool. We're going to the club tonight. He's regular like that. Yeah. And so now let's speak to that. That's a part of fabric of the society, the white part of society. They like that. They like the people that they can relate to. So now you said something that I can understand a little bit better about why people are so enthralled with him, because I watched that as a young man happen with George W. Bush in the political arena.
Yeah. And it happened with Reagan too. I mean, that same thing.
Yes, Reagan, yeah.
But you
Reagan,
have...
Hold on, but Reagan's smooth though.
Yeah, he is.
Reagan's smooth.
He's got that actor thing too, or had that actor thing.
Yeah, he's an actor. He's damn sure an actor. Especially in my community.
Let's not get too deep in this.
Yeah, we're not going to put Reagan off Reagan.
We're not crashing on Reagan. Though he probably deserves to be crashed on a little bit. But I mean, if it is, it is, right?
Go look up Nicaragua and Ronald Reagan.
Right, sorry. But the other part of Springsteen, I think, is that the concerts are like revivals. Like it has that feel to it. That they are. It's. I don't want to use Michael Jackson as a corollary, but because it's not the same thing. It's not like little girls screaming kind of thing. Because I mean, Michael had everybody, right? But Bruce would it feels, I mean, you can go on YouTube and watch concert footage of him, both from the 70s and whatever. You have these, and this is not like women screaming and passing out. This is like a revival. Like there's something of a religious experience. No, I've never been to a concert of his, but like it has that feel to it.
No, his energy and what he gives is so strong. That's why I said the whole stick thing. No, it all makes sense now, because I feel that way about Prince. I've seen Prince live a couple times. He gives what he has when he's there.
Yep.
And for somebody as special in him, for as big as him, for as how many times that he's done this, for him to show up and give you that is special. And so I can understand that, and I can respect that. And so
it's that hard work thing. I think that people the bootstrap stuff. I mean, all that right, American legend.
Right. I can respect it, Andrew. I got up at 6:30 today, made my daughter breakfast, put her on the school bus, went and ran a couple errands, went down an hour away from my house, did my job, came back, did one podcast, took a break, was like, oh shit, Andrew's on the phone, podcast number 2. Yeah. I've been at it for 18 hours now. I respect the hard work. That's why I'm like, no, give me something to contextualize it so I understand more. It's like they respect the hard-working man. He's not glossed up and dressed up like these other guys. He's gritty, kind of like Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah, he's wearing jeans and a T-shirt, right? I mean, that's what.
Right. Wu-Tang Clan's wearing hoodies and Timbs, so it all comes back
Same idea.
To culture and the idea and how it relates. Right.
He's probably I dig this. Like, I was sitting here thinking a little bit about like laughing at ourselves because like this is supposed to be like a 20-minute thing, right? And this has been like an hour and a half probably ish. And like thinking like, how am I going to cut this down to like I don't think I am though. I think getting to that point that we just got to, I think is worth all of the conversation. And I mean, the conversation's interesting anyway, but it's worth everybody else getting to listen to the conversation.
I think where we got to just now is the crux of the idea of when you first brought this to me. It's about bridging the gap
Yep.
developing the understanding, enjoying the music, having a little fun, talking shit with your friend you've known
Yeah,
over 20
exactly.
years. Yeah, it's all of those things. And so there's no real timestamp on those types of moments,
Yeah. So, sometimes it'll be shorter and sometimes it's going to take a while. Like,
right. Because I was asking you all those questions because I was trying to get somewhere.
yeah.
Because in the middle of you talking and explaining, I started asking myself questions, and it's like just who I am, and I think you know me. It's like, no, I want to know. I'm not gonna let it ride. It's like, no, tell me why they love him so much. Break it down for me.
Part of my answer is I don't know, but part of it's also like I'm just like I try to. This is what makes sense to me. Like, and maybe other people can explain it differently, but
yeah.
like that's what I got.
Yeah, no. What you got is good, and you were able to give me a lot of things that made me think about previous thoughts that I had, and able to tie them back together. And what I really take away from it is that, well, your community and your culture respects a lot of the same things that I respect: dope melodies, dope beats,
Yep.
hard work, people they can relate to. It's not as separate as we make it sometimes.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, yeah.
We can pull it together just like we pulled it together in this conversation. Because I'm asking questions because I'm like, man, this is too separated. It's like, give me something to connect it so that I understand. Because I know you understand, like from your response, when I'm talking about C.R.E.A.M, I can tell that you understand. So if I'm coming to you on your side about it and I don't understand, it's like, no, make me understand.
I want you to ask. Like that's the whole point of this whole show is like
no, because I'll sit here until we figure some shit out or just get tired.
No, like, and because like if you're having these questions, other people are going to have the same questions. Like you're not the only one that's thinking this.
How about this? So the last episode that we did, we talked about Fight the Power. We talked about the important moment in the song where Flavor Flav jumped, fuck him and John Wayne.
Yeah.
Okay, so Elvis, John Wayne, Bruce Springsteen is kind of in that same line in my community. That's why I'm asking you these questions. Like we look at him the same way we look at John Wayne and look at Elvis. It's like, give me something to show me why, you know, because John Wayne's a known racist. Elvis is somebody who stole from black people. Bruce Springsteen is grouped in with them. Give me something to give my people to separate.
Like separate him out from them a little bit, from that narrative. Yeah.
Right. Give me something to separate the narrative. It's like, oh, you like him because he's a hardworking guy and he doesn't wear all that flashy shit and he shows up and kicks ass every day. That's what Wu-Tang does. I can tell my people that. Be like, Bruce Springsteen show up for his people the way Wu-Tang does every day. The way we wear hoodies and Timbs, that's the way he's in jeans,
white t-shirt, jeans,
white tee. Right. So it's relatable at that point. Give me something to relate to, though, so I don't have to group him with John Wayne and Elvis. Because here's the thing about the line with John Wayne and Elvis: you ain't gonna find no black people disagreeing. Yeah. So I think that might be a good place to end it. I think.
Yeah, that's a good place to stop.